I know takes care of maintaining the list, at least from his perspective. So, welcome to the first TWed of the fall 2015 season. Thank you for your patience as we try to set the time. This might not be the final resting place for this time, but there's a possibility we may switch to Tuesday evenings. I'm going to send out a poll probably within the next 24 hours to try to find a final best fit for this talk. So just a reminder, these are approximately bi-weekly. We may have a talk next week, either Tuesday or Wednesday from Paulo. Then we'll probably take a week off, and then we'll work out sort of a semi-weekly schedule from that point. These are streamed live. We use Google Hangouts, so remote people can actually participate as well. We excuse our cumbersome thing, because what we try to do for the video feed is we try to intersperse a video of the speaker as well as their slides, so there's a little bit of logistical setup that we try to do, and it works pretty well. These are posted to YouTube instantly as soon as we stop broadcasting at noon, and are available to review after that, and are linked to from the TWed site, twed.edu/web/TWed. The schedule as it forms. If you're interested in doing a TWed talk, please let me know. What we're trying to do with our TWed talks is make them more oriented towards tools that are useful across the lab. And so, without further ado, Jim McCusker, our recent graduate, our most recent PhD.
I think someone's well, people have defended since me, have they? No, maybe not.
No, they've been defensive.
Well, yeah.
so
recent PhD.
Yes, our most recent.
As of Monday, I've officially graduated. We'll just go with that.
What Jim is going to do, and Jim also is now affiliated with the lab and on the lab staff, and he's going to be talking about something that's sort of setting the stage for potentially many projects across the lab this term, introducing some tools that that he's used in his experience, and we have been using for the Gates Foundation related work, and tools that are accessible to anybody, free, they're very useful. You've heard of some of them, and without further ado, take it away, Jim. By the way, we're conscious of the fact that the CogSci talk starts at noon, and we'll try to time this out so that you have enough time to run up to whatever it is, Amos Eaton or Carnegie or
Sage.
Sage.
Actual Sage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's typically always Sage.
So we are aware of that. And
yes.
Right.
Okay, so anyway, cool tools for research project management collaboration, or how I learned to survive the wilds of research projects using only my wits and technology. This is very true. So I've pretty much since I finished my undergrad in 1999, I've been doing research software development almost continuously. A few breaks here and there, but almost all of my software has been for research purposes or for commercial product development. So the question is, what is good research software? Now, a lot of people think the best research software is the stuff you can throw away because you never have to worry about it again. But the thing is that there's going to be kind of a base layer of software that is going to be used over and over and over again because it's fundamentally useful. This is not necessarily the software that you use to run your experiments and then you have some script which does stuff and then you publish the results. This is the stuff that the scripts invoke. So these are your algorithms, these are the tools that you use to produce things. And the thing about that software is that it actually needs to be better than standard commercial software or open source software. The reason why is because you have to be nimble with it. It has to be able to change based on what your research priorities are. And as a result, it has to be well written, has to be easy to understand. You have to be able to pass it on to other people. And so the quality demands for good research software is actually higher than what you see in the commercial world. And towards that end, I've made it a priority to encourage the use of the same sorts of tools that the best software shops in the world use to drive up their quality. So a day in the life of a well-connected collaborative research group. We'll check out a new project out of GitHub and build it. We'll use Vagrant, Puppet, and Fabric to build virtual machines on our local desktop to run the project in. It keeps it nice and contained, and you end up with the same development environment that's on the server. Coordinate with teammates on talk.twed.rpi.edu, and I'll show you a little bit from that. Write an ontology in Google Sheets. Collaborate on a presentation in Google Slides. Write a paper in Authoria with your teammates. Schedule a meeting using Doodle. Take meeting notes in Google Docs. Track progress using Trello, and maybe you get to write some code at some point. So GitHub. Actually, we have our own private GitHub team. Sure.
You think that that's relatively complete?
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Pretty impoverished, actually.
Yes, and I ran out of space even with this, and
Okay.
so this is a very this is actually very very cursory and high level, and I'm not going to be able to go into absolutely everything that we do, but there are even more tools that we use, and I'm not even going to go into a lot of the semantic oriented tools in this talk. This is more about kind of the more general software development and support stuff that we use.
Toastmaster says you should list no more than 10 collaboration tools on a single slide.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds good.
And yeah, I squeaked right under that with mine. GitHub, we actually have our own private GitHub account where a number of projects, including the Gates Foundation, have been putting private repositories. You can also put public repositories in there if you're publishing open source software. But one of the great things about it is that it's really easy to extend to external collaborators if you have any. It's easy to extend to other members of the lab. And there are a lot of great resources and best practices around how to accept commits from other people and review them. GitHub has private repositories, issue tracking, wikis, external collaboration, because everyone has a GitHub account these days, integration with lots and lots of tools, including Travis CI, Trello, and others. Wait, what was CI? What was that? CI is continuous integration. This is critical for a good software project. Continuous integration is a server or service that basically installs your software, runs the unit tests, computes the test coverage, runs the style checkers, runs the static analysis on every single commit you get. And you get a nice report, and you get a pass versus fail check. RDFlib, which is on GitHub, uses Travis CI on every pull request. And so what they do is they will run their unit tests and code coverage and analysis against every version of Python that they support in parallel, and Travis CI handles all that for you, and you get a nice report saying how badly your pull request fails, and then you go back and fix it, and they won't accept your pull request until you pass everything. These code quality tools are actually available for almost all languages. Java, Python, JavaScript, Perl, even .NET to some degree. And many others have tools in all of these slots, and I really encourage you to add these things to your projects. It's actually possible to set kind of the number of errors that you'll accept before or that your overall check passes. And so you can basically just accept however many you currently have and then kind of gradually grind down the errors until you've got nothing. And then you're actually going to be in very good shape for people to come in and understand your project after you've left, which means that your big landmark paper and the software that came with it is actually going to be usable 5 years down the road by someone else who's been tasked to extend it.
So I'm going to just back in for a minute, because some of these I don't actually know, and I'm presuming that some number of the students in the room don't know them as well.
Yes.
I'm thinking a couple of things. One is, you're going to put your PowerPoint up on the web, but I'm actually thinking that this might be a good page to have as kind of a collaborative editing development page, because there might be some other ones that other people want to add.
Right.
And it's probably overwhelming to a new student to say, oh my God, I use all of these. Are there some...
This is something, so a project leader should be responsible. So someone like me or John or someone senior on a project, so Patrick or Steph, should be responsible for setting up these tools on a given project. So usually you don't add them all at once, and then basically once the project grows to a certain size, then you start adding more things. But so unit testing is basically you test chunks of code, and the particulars of which one you use are dependent on the language. Code coverage usually fits in with the unit testing framework and is an add-on, and so that'll tell you what percentage of code has been run during the unit tests. Style checks will check for basically so that the source code follows a consistent formatting style, and it will give you errors where it falls out of that style. And static analysis tools will tell you things like how complex is your code, how many variables have you been using, how long are your functions, as kind of a general guide. Here's something you shouldn't be doing in this language, and it will basically give you warnings about each and every one.
How often you're paying that is.
Exactly. Yes. And yeah. And so when this stuff in particular is something that I brought back from the company that I was working for, 5AM Solutions. They are basically one of the best software shops I've ever seen. Partly because they use these tools and they aggressively encourage their technical leads to integrate this into their projects, and they basically have to justify why they're not including it in a project when they don't.
So I'm thinking also you might put up a page on the things that you put in place for the Gates Foundation project.
Mm-hmm.
For any example project.
Yeah.
If you think the Gates Foundation is a good example, use that. But
yeah.
Some good example. Because other smaller projects with people who don't have quite your experience might just
exactly.
Their infrastructure.
Exactly. Actually, for Gates Foundation, we don't have enough software for this yet.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking Gates might not be perfect.
Yeah, but there are other projects. So, like for instance, for our RGDA1, because I put that into RDF lib, they were already using nose and nose coverage, and don't know if they were using these yet, but the style and static analysis checks. But they do code. They also do code review, manual code reviews. And so, but yeah.
For the Jefferson project, we've got 5 people here contributing code, and we're going to have some additional people. Okay, so the Jefferson project would be a good one, and company DCO would be a good one.
Yes. Yeah. So
Patrick reminds us that we're only allowed 20 private repositories.
Before we start paying.
Yeah, I don't think we're up to that though. But which has there's two sides to that. One is that so under TWed we have a limit of 20 privates.
Yes.
You can have many public, and it sort of encourages public. So
exactly.
If it doesn't need to be private,
don't make it private. Yeah.
Exactly.
And most of the time, it's a good idea.
We're only up to 4 right now, privates.
Okay.
The other thing is, GitHub is stickler for. You may get into this sort of thing later. They're stickler for code versus data, and they are. You've got, I think, 10 gigabytes available to you, but you've got file size limits of something like 100 megabyte.
Yep.
And they start whining at you at 50 megabyte.
Yeah.
Which is a real. It means that for data sorts of things, you have to look to other options for the sharing.
Yeah.
Which you're going to talk through all sorts of options.
Right. So yeah, and actually that's going to be that's actually part of the software that we've written, specifically the CSVDeRDF converter. It's optimized for the use case of checking in the mapping between a flat file and RDF, and then posting that RDF or posting that flat file somewhere that can be downloaded on a regular basis. Sure. Code coverage is, so when you run a unit test, it's going to invoke a certain piece of code in your software. When you're not testing all of your code, you don't know how it's going to behave in the wild. And so the ideal thing is that you want to basically exercise all of the corner cases and all of the oddball inputs and so forth in your unit tests, so that when it actually comes down to running against any given input, you know that it's always going to work. Code coverage helps you determine if you've actually touched all of the lines of code that are possible. And if you don't, so that's kind of a minimum level of analysis. You usually want to go beyond that, but usually getting to that point is pretty hard and can be is very. You get a lot of rewards for making sure you've touched everything, especially if one line does one thing like what you're supposed to do. And so the code coverage will basically tell you how much of your software you've tested. So ideal is 100%. Usually a decent project will end up at 80%, 90% when it's kind of in practice. But usually you try to push that number up as high as you can get it.
Can it synthesize a test harness?
Can
it synthesize a test harness?
No. Well, the test harness is the unit test
I know
system.
that, but I'm just wondering if it's possible to analyze your code and suggest what the synthesis has to be in order to tickle that.
Oh, no. No, although...
That's a research topic.
Yeah. But there are actually other things in unit testing like mock data and kind of separating out the pieces into actual units that really make it a lot more effective. And a lot of these testing tools over the years have been making it easier and easier to kind of provide mock frameworks around your code so that it looks like it's in where it expects to be. So if you have a piece of software that's going to be running on a web server, it will be expecting certain environments in place, and it can basically make it look like it's in that environment for you. Yes, this is one of the biggest things you can do to kind of make your code as nimble and I'm going to say agile, but basically be able to turn directions on what the code is doing fairly quickly, so you can respond to changes in what your research is doing. So the other thing is when you're doing research, there's actually a lot of benefit to using at least parts of the Scrum methodology. So Scrum is a project management methodology. We're using some of it on the Gates project. We're going to be adding more and more as we see fit. One of the things that you get, so you have a daily cycle of basically do the work, report the work, where you have a daily stand-up, like a 10-minute meeting where everyone says what they've been doing in the last 24 hours, what they're going to be doing in the next 24 hours, and the obstacles that they face. Someone called the Scrum Master is responsible for making sure that any of those obstacles are removed, and basically they help the team to self-organize, which sounds kind of contradictory, but it is basically a support role where they make sure that the team has what they need to do the job that they're trying to do. our job is research. So a lot of times these sprint cycles, which are usually weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly cycles of work, where you commit to a set of goals, and then at the end you deliver those goals, and you have a fixed set of time in which you do it. And so the idea is that you're basically reducing the risk of kind of drawing out tasks longer than they need to be by saying we're going to get what we can done towards this goal during this time period. At the end of that time period, we're done with the sprint. We reassess and we reprioritize things back into a backlog of tasks to do, and then basically create a new set of sprint goals. We've been doing, like I said, we've been doing this. We've been using Trello to do this on the Gates project. We have a backlog of tasks or stories. We have a set of sprint goals, which are basically active things that we're doing. We have things that are in motion. So these are the tasks that people are actively in the process of. We have things that need to undergo review in order to accept them as being done, and then we have the stuff that's actually finished. And as the sprint progresses, things move from left to right.
And are you going to talk through that adding and moving things from left to right?
Oh, you mean like the physical?
Well, yeah. What I was just going to mention is so there are other tools that you could use. You may have heard of Jira. Some of you may have been involved in internships projects where you use Jira as a similar kind of environment. We actually use Jira on several other projects at TWed. This is particularly nice because it's a very complete interface, but yet it's very lightweight and usable.
Yes, and very fast.
Very fast. So Jim can add something to the sprint goal. Remember, that's that sort of week-long, 2-week-long objective what we're trying to do. More likely, what you do is you set your sprint objectives, and then you execute. But the backlog is meant to be the set of tasks that could potentially be part of the sprint. Yeah. So it's incredibly useful to have this open during meetings, during just any other time. Throw issues that come up, things that need to be worked on. Change this label, change this. Throw those into the backlog, and then either immediately add them to. Well, ignoring sprint goals for a second. Individual team members on a daily basis can review the backlog, assuming that they're consistent with the sprint goals, but they essentially take that. So, Jim, why don't you just demo that? You choose to take one of these.
Yeah, so you take something on, you assign yourself.
Oh, yeah, you don't even have to be that fancy. So so get out of that for a second. So one way to do it is drag one of those backlog things, drop it right into the doing. And what that's saying is Jim has just taken the Post-it off of the backlog side of the wall, stuck it under his. So he's telling everybody in the team, I'm working on this right now. Right. Now, did you bounce off of the sprint goal part, or did you drag it straight from the backlog?
Yeah. So, well, no, I just pulled it from sprint goals.
Right.
But
the idea, right, is it goes from backlog to goals, and then
exactly. So at the beginning of the sprint, you say, here are the things we're going to try and get done for the sprint, which is you also decide on how long that's going to be. You put those into the sprint goals, and then as the sprint progresses, people take on the work and move things over. There are going to be things, obviously, that not everyone can do, but the idea is that the team as a whole is actually committing to these goals, rather than just one particular person. So if there is only one person that can do something, that is a bit of a risk, actually, because that means that there's no one who can step in and help if they get stuck. So one thing this does encourage is some other practices, like paired programming, where you might have someone who's, you might pair two people up, one person who knows a lot more about what's going on, one person that knows less, and you actually sit down together and try and do the work. You have 2 keyboards, 2 mice, 1 monitor.
So, for example, on that, we just had our daily stand-up, and I said I need help on my task that I'm working on right now. So, Jim goes and adds.
I'll just add myself, and then we're both on it, and we can go sit down together and work on the task. And actually, that's something like having more than one person on a task is something that not a lot of tools can do.
That's right. That's a subtle thing. You would think it's obvious.
Yeah, but it's
many
not.
systems it's not.
Right.
How do the members in the same class like a chat box?
Well, so that we'll get to that. Actually, I may as well just jump right over to it. So we also have a thing called talk.twed.rpa.edu. This is an instance of Rocket Chat. So we have a private Gates Foundation chat room that all members of the team have been added to. And so we basically have an ongoing chat log of everything we've been talking about for basically since the project began, or at least since I joined. And so
anybody in this room can sign up for talk.twed.rpi.edu.
Yes, and then you can start making your own private chat rooms for your teams.
And so why don't you just review those? It's essentially what the favorites are, right?
Yeah. So these are the ones that I've marked with a star. And so if I unstar it, it'll pop back down to the other places that I've added.
Does that scroll?
This?
Oh, yeah. That buff's on it.
Yep. Looks like Patrick. Oh, you can also do direct messages. Should I run the rest?
I don't know.
Oh,
there we go.
There we go. Thanks. So anyway, yeah. So you can actually have one-on-one chats with people. There is video conferencing in here too, although or video chat.
Just to emphasize the fact that you can have wide open talks.
Mm-hmm.
And then project membership specific or project specific channels.
Right.
Over the past few years, we've used within TWed's world, we've often used Skype as a way to do this, and it's worked pretty well, but it has its issues, and it also is kind of limited in some of its features.
Actually, one of the things that it does is it mingles source code.
Yes, that's true as well. This allows you to.
Yeah, you can actually
use a simple. But the point here is it's very easy to drop files into shared files within the context of the discussion, so you don't lose that. As Jim was getting to, it's easy to jump out to video conferencing. We haven't really done it yet. It is possible to use some simple syntax to show code as it looks rather than as it's trashed by Skype. But the biggest thing is it's controlled by us, and it's archived, and it's reviewable. So that's it's an effective replacement, and it doesn't crash Deborah's computer.
Yeah, anymore.
And it does.
Yeah, and it scrolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, well, I have the same problem.
Yeah,
So the primary answer, Marshall, because in DCO we've been using Skype as our sort of, I call it chat fest. We've been using Skype for that. This kind of replaces that role a little bit better. I think there is some communications capability in Trello. That's mostly commenting on tasks.
Yeah. So actually these cards can really grow with the task as they mature. So if you want to add comments to something, and John's going to wonder why I'm doing all this junk on his card, but whatever.
Well, no, that's fine. Is that pushed out the email? Or I just get a notification?
If you're watching it.
If I'm watching it. Okay,
Yeah.
but that's good, because that's one of the things that.
So there's a subscribe button. so you can subscribe to particular cards. You can add attachments, set due dates.
That's really cool.
You can add checklists. I have one here. And set labels.
That's cool.
And
Are labels, how would I do a prioritization? Like I wrote urgent in one of those things until you read the text, but is there some way to set prioritization?
well, so the priorities is the order in the list.
Oh, okay, so I can move it around.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So when Deborah found out that the things weren't scrolling, she added this card. If I was still doing it, I would put it up here so just the physical ordering will give you the priority list.
So one of the things that has proven to be one of the motivations to move to Jira for DCO was the email-based communication, which is it's one thing to have the notifications in band of the system, but it's also very useful to be able to engage the back-end system with email. So emails going to it or things that are entered in the system are communicated through email.
Right.
All right.
So okay. So another important thing that will make our lives easier, and whenever I've done this on a project, it's made my life easier, is something called DevOps, or developer operations, and that's a set of tools that help you automate the creation of development environments and servers. Basically, push button, deploy a new server, and not have to worry about the particulars of installing things. So basically, all the installation, all the software that you're using on the machine is automated and just runs. Generally, what we do is we use Vagrant and VirtualBox to create things locally on our laptops or our desktops. And then we ask Patrick very nicely for a virtual machine on one of those machines, and he'll give one to you. But these other two tools, Puppet and Fabric, will let you automate the provisioning and the management of those servers, and they can be managed in the same way. So Puppet will help you set up all the software on the machine, and so I have a default. So this is a Puppet script. You don't need to see the particulars of it, but it's installing all of the system packages and adds the GitHub SSH keys, adds basically sets up and installs Callimachus, and it downloads CSVDeRDF. And the really great thing about it is that it can be applied to many different machines, and it's fairly generic. Fabric is a Python-based scripting tool that lets you invoke things either locally or remotely to do fairly complex management tasks. So what I've done. Let's see, do I have it here? Right. So what we've done is we have on the Gates Foundation project is that we have this Google Docs spreadsheet where our experts are adding rows for different classes and providing tons and tons of commentary about it. More than I've ever seen. It's really awesome. What we do is we take that spreadsheet and we use CSVDeRDF to convert it into OWL by just generating the relevant RDF for it. And then that OWL plus some extra stuff that tells us about the ontology in general gets loaded into a web framework called Callimachus. And we add some custom views and HTML pages and templates and stuff into that to provide a ontology browser. And we actually get this. We get basically a page for every class, and we get a overall ontology page and all this other stuff fairly quickly and fairly easily. And it's actually automated it's automated by, using Fabric. So Fabric will run the conversion script to download and the conversion script downloads the spreadsheet from Google Docs and runs CSVDeRDF over those using the conversion parameters. It aggregates it up into a single turtle file. It then Fabric will then load that in and munge the URIs so that it's useful on your local machine, and then it will bundle with all of the templates and stuff into a zip file and push it up for import into Callimachus. And just using all you have to do to do that is fab deploy.
Yay!
Yeah. And
I thought before you type it now, you have to link the link that the Google Drive something into the Fabric.
no, what you have to do is CSVDeRDF has so basically we have so I'm actually using curl because I'm using the many different one for each tab, but basically you just need the sharing export thing, and you need to be able to reference the spreadsheet by its URL.
We've done that much with so most of our examples for using CSVDeRDF on Google spreadsheets are like single sheet examples and that stuff. But this is I'm not sure people actually realize this is just a subtle thing. So this gets you to the main sheet, and each one of these GIDs is a different tab on a Google sheet. So
right.
But you can't use wget for.
Well, you can't use pcurl.
Oh, we can't use pcurl.
Because, or at least you can't use the retreat. You can't use the retreat thing that that there normally is for Google Docs, because it looks for the key and then it'll take basically the default tab, whatever that is. Yep.
If you do this talk again at a later time, like start off with like simpler examples on how it's like curl, wget, pcurl. Okay, all right, I sort of understand what these things are, and then now we're tags, and I don't know where.
Let's take this offline. You've been with this lab for 4 years.
Yeah, but
yeah,
so okay, we can address that.
There's some pieces that this is more about. I mean, so I dove into this because people started asking questions.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone into this detail if they weren't interested. But the general idea is you have a script that downloads data from, in this case, a Google Doc. It does it for a bunch of different tabs. And curl is a standard Unix command that you should know about already. And then the converter will basically process that to create, it will go and create a download directory and do all that stuff, and then basically emit some turtle that you can load into whatever system you're using. This is 5 or 6 years old by now.
CSVDeRDF?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was happy with it in 2010.
It's venerable at this point, and it's very mature and very powerful.
CSVDeRDF, but some of these, I mean, if you're doing linked data, you can do curl from the get-go.
Yeah.
So your point about jargon generally is well taken. I'm going to defend my man on some of this stuff because it's bread and butter. So.
All right.
So continue.
Yes.
Do you have something that talks about our workflow?
This is, well, basically we have a lot of collaborators. So the ontology, so we started off with, I guess CMAP actually was the first thing we used.
Well, yes,
but yes, we started off trying to use ontology editors, but the problem is that there was a lot of metadata that we were adding, and a lot of that was you can add it by hand, in the ontology editor, but we needed to make sure that everything was exactly the way it was supposed to be. So we had a bunch of patterns that we wanted to follow. In order to, we would have had to basically hand check each and every one of these additions, and we would have had to have someone actually enter that stuff consistently into Protege or whatnot. So, and the other thing is that our subject matter experts didn't know Protege. They didn't know OWL. They didn't know any of this stuff.
So I'll just answer just like a higher level. So for this project, part of our job is creating an ontology that's basically the way terms are being used in this research work. There's 80 to 100 of these experts on bioinformatics, statistics, et cetera, that are doing this real work using the Gates Foundation sponsored data. And there are terms and concepts that are emerging. They need to be captured and vetted by people who are experts in the field, but not experts in the technology that we use. So we're using Sheets as it's our API basically. So they're able to do their work in that because they know how to use spreadsheets, they know how to review that into the content. But we're able to use it and automatically extract that information and convert it. So it's a really nice balancing point where they know how to structure spreadsheets, we know how to parse it and convert. And it's worked out really well.
Yeah.
And Sheets has a lot of features in terms of notification of changes and stuff, so we can track that pretty carefully. We can see what's going on. So it's a very handy interface that's really broken down barriers. University of Washington, RPI, Gates Foundation, that they can get in and use it, but our tools can be applied. So,
yeah.
And this is not really a one-off. So I've used CMAPs with at least dozens of projects just to do, because it's got low barriers to entry. Any high school student or anybody with computer phobia can kind of map out in a small way. But CMAPs really break down once it gets big. So we had to do something big. And I've used Excel spreadsheets with a bunch of, I've probably used hundreds of collaborators, most of whom are not computer scientists. But actually, I've never really used this notification thing for things changing.
Yeah, you've been doing that. It's really nice. The daily notification of who was in, editing the sheet, when they were in, and then following the link to see exactly what was changed by the different collaborators. It's a very useful feature, and particularly for this project where we need to see. We kind of have to hop in and review and make sure somebody didn't trash a column or whatever. So it's really a great input thing. So some of the people, I think Jim, you were one, but Alvaro, Tim, I don't know if there was anybody else.
Dumb helped too.
So we used this with the VP of Research's office a few years ago on the RPI research funding demo. The bouncy balls demo, and the input was a spreadsheet that was shared between the administrator, Fran Berman's admins, and us, and it was kind of a prototype of what we did with this. We've also done earlier projects using Converter. We've used the spreadsheets as a front end, but not really for collaboration purposes. But it's a really useful way to do it.
Yeah, and kind of in the future. So right now it's kind of there's a tree and a catalog, so there's definitions and comments and labels. Yeah, but it's not really like expressive ontology yet. When we get to that point, we can actually do things like add a tab that has like Manchester syntax stuff and just type it right in there, and then use a more conventional text template system to generate the formal stuff. I'm actually almost done. Right, so more generally with Google Apps, we use this stuff all over the place in the lab. We use Hangouts for video conferencing. We also use Skype, but sometimes Hangouts works better. We use Google Docs for meeting notes and collaborative writing. I've written probably half a dozen papers in Google Docs. And also HackPad we use as well. We use Google Sheets for data curation and collaboration, so we're talking about that. I've also done some very intensive data curation efforts in Google Sheets where basically, especially when I was at Yale, we would have this big spreadsheet that described all of our biological samples that we're using in our big experiment. And we would go over that every day. And new samples would come in, we'd add new lines to it. I'd review it, I'd show it to my boss, he'd show it to the PI of the head PI of the grant. We have some common ground to go over this stuff. Really valuable. I'm using slides for collaborative presentations right now. We did this on the Gates Foundation project, where we had to brief the head of the whole project that we were talking to, and we were able to put some slides together for Deborah, basically all at the same time. I was working on one set, John was working on another, and it all came together very nicely.
So one of the things I want to stress is this aspect,
yes,
collaborative aspect. Okay, it's not just I'm going to do some edits in the Google Doc, and then you'll do some edits, and Sam will do some edits. It's let's all get together on the Skype at the same time and edit this thing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this has been particularly useful for the user story that Jim discussed.
Yeah, especially under time pressure. So we had ridiculous time pressure on this, and we hacked it out collaboratively.
Yeah, having 5 people looking at these slides at exactly the same time and adding content.
Yep,
is
I was
cranking
up screenshots and adding them in while Deborah and John were talking about some other aspect of it and putting other slots in, and basically we had the nuts and bolts of it together in an hour or two.
Oh yeah,
like that.
we did. It was within the hour. So most of you are familiar with, you know about the Google apps, you know about doing slides, but what we're trying to bring out here is the value of the collaborative aspect of this. That it is really, really useful to. I mean, it's literally something that you can't even do if you're sitting in the room together. Okay, if you could be sitting in a room, but if you're all in the same Google Doc working on that presentation or working on the document at the same time,
right,
that's the value.
Exactly. So you can't do that with PowerPoint because you have it on one computer, and if everyone's trying to do something, there's only one screen on one thing you're looking at.
And if you're working for Peter and he doesn't want to go on it, you create it in Google Docs and then send him the PPTX. Yeah. Sorry, Peter, if you're listening.
And the other thing we do with Google Apps is we actually have a shared project calendar that basically we put in all the details about all our meetings, all the events that are happening, and yeah. Yeah. So Doodle is great actually for finding a time. So if you don't know when everyone's available, you can actually use it to you put in a set of possibilities and you let all your people, you send them the link, they click off the ones that they can attend, and then you take the intersection, basically the first intersection, and then that's when your meeting is. That's another one, been using it for 5 or 6, 7 years, and it's really valuable to settle things out quickly. Authoria is kind of a newer collaborative writing system. What was Authoria? Authoria sounds faster to me. But anyway, it's basically LaTeX and Markdown to write academic papers, and so each of these things is a separate file. They use Git to manage all this stuff, and so you click on one of these. Actually, let me see if I have it here. You click on one, and yeah, so you click on one, you can start typing, and then you save and close, and it'll put it back, and it'll commit it. So it's when you break out your sections, it works very nice. And Ray's nodding his head because we wrote this paper using this, and it worked very well for that.
It should be emphasized that it's the GitHub Plus.
Yes, it's basically GitHub plus a web interface on it to make the LaTeX a little bit easier to
It's more
digest.
than what it looks like. It's like, oh, Google Docs for LaTeX.
Yeah.
But it's more than that.
Right.
Share LaTeX or Share LaTeX is sort of Google Docs for LaTeX.
Yeah.
It's an alternative.
Any other specific packages on Spiders?
I think you can import the. Must be able.
Yeah.
to.
Well, so you can actually get into the folder itself, and then, for
The
instance,
structure is the same, isn't it, Jim? Isn't the file structure the same as a normal LaTeX package?
yeah. Yeah, except everything. So that everything is broken out, and then there's.
You go up. I thought you had your folders up at the top. Do you have
This
style
is-
folders up at the top?
No. I'm trying to find the actual
So let's not.
header.
Yeah.
So you can basically add your header stuff in here as needed. But anyway, yeah, that's not. I'm not going to go too much. Can't go too much detail with any given one of these.
I think the answer is absolutely yes, because it's useless if you can't use like particular styles. So I think on the real you can. But it's a good question, but yeah.
Right. And then kind of the main focus of this is that these tools and our tools like CSVDeRDF work if you learn them. They're actually our secret sauce, and to some degree, this is the way forward. And you're going to be working slower than the people who are using these things if you don't use them. That's just how it is. And so you're better off learning how to do this stuff, especially when you're working in groups. That's it.
Any questions for Jim? Other than LaTeX styles.
You use those tools to manage your own. For example, if you are not doing a group job,
Oh.
Oh, you said Trello. You said Trello.
Yeah, Trello does a lot of work for me. I actually, do I still have it in here? Did I archive it? I think I archived it.
Well, while you're finding it, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Say you're meeting with your advisor, and you're reviewing some next steps, and your advisor starts ripping off.
Yeah.
A bunch of different things. You add those short little cards into the backup. You decide on maybe your next sprint is you're going to spend a week or 2 weeks on a chapter. You say, okay. You choose the tasks from the backlog. You pull them across for a chapter, drop them into it's a chapter 5 sprint or something like that. And then as you complete those tasks, you knock them off and throw them into done.
Yeah.
Maybe they have to be reviewed. So you
Right. So here's a personal one. I'm getting ready to sell my house, and there's a lot of things wrong with it. And so basically, I'm just using this to keep track of where things stand and what I need to take care of.
That's hilarious. That's a cute little list. You should try for.
It's way too big.
You should try for a 180-year-old house.
Yeah. Well, I've got all the basics on here, like replace roof, replace the siding, replace the windows, replace the doors. Everything that touches the outside air, pretty much.
Rebuild house.
Yes, exactly. But so anyway, this is my personal list. I'm using it to keep track of these things for myself, not necessarily to communicate with anyone else.
How come you're assigned all the times?
What?
Does your wife do the task assignment?
Well, there's no assignment here. Yeah, she'll help things out here and there. But anyway, so yeah, it's definitely something you can use. I used it for my dissertation actually, and that was I can't show you that one because it's closed, and you can basically close a board and like archive everything. But but basically, yeah, you have multiple boards, and we have a tetherless world.
Are those progress bars?
Who?
Those the colored bars. Then.
No, those are these are just labels.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jim?
Yeah.
Does Trello report like the metadata like what are the tasks, who are the members, and when this task was moved from one stage another stage.
Yep.
I think those are reference information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's this.
Documented in their structure. Maybe we even have a way to transform them into like some triple structure.
Yeah, so here's all the activity on the board. Trello does have an API, so we can extract that. That would be fun. I'm not sure exactly what you do with it.
Oh,
but
this is for modeling workflows for trying to reproduce workflows for data recovery, data rescue.
Oh. But yeah, did you? Yeah, I guess.
There's some paper in there.
Yeah. But yes, they do have an open API. In fact, there are integrations between Trello and GitHub and other systems like that. So you have the ability, for instance, tie cards to commits and so forth, or tie issues to cards.
Any questions from remote? We got Patrick on. Patrick has been in the Hangout.
Workflows for data recovery.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to work.
Patrick, if you got any questions, you can go on audio and ask it.
I don't have any questions.
Is your audio on?
Well, it'll come through there too.
Well,
Here.
there are integrations between Trello and yes, that's the problem. Is that it's,
Nobody.
that was me.
Oh no, but he's in the Hangout.
Yeah.
He hears it live. He's not. If you're following
Oh.
YouTube, you get a delay. But if you're following, if you're actually in the Hangout, you get it.
I thought I was in the Hangout.
Oh yeah, you are.
Wait. Oh.
Yeah, you might.
I might be in twice.
I think we're. If that's any, so if you got any detailed questions about the software engineering aspects that Jim talked about earlier, and ask Jim, ask Patrick, ask Stefan, Zednik. They probably are guru of gurus. If there's enough of an interest, we can have a specific focused conversation about that. Thanks again, Jeff. If I could get some help kind of consolidating or just taking those flat things upstairs, on the table. If you're much, you think you're being here for this time. Yeah. My bad.